Hey everybody. To all our friends at 7Com, we've started this journey of a new incident command process. It's actually been a couple years in the making. And part of that is bringing you guys on board because we're saying and doing things on the radio that probably just doesn't seem to make sense. So I want to go ahead and define what some of those things are and explain the importance or the why of why it's so important for us to have a good relationship and for us to understand what we're saying to each other on the fireground. So, what we're doing is what's called Blue Card Command. So, Blue Card Command is an incident management system for us to run our working incidents. So, it's a command management tool, it's a command safety tool, but what it does is a communication model and an incident management system that provides training and specifically to fire officers over a standardized format so that we can talk to one another and so that we can use our department's standard operating procedures to affect changes on a fire ground. So how we do that is we have some different policies and procedures. That doesn't really apply to you as far as like how we operate, but I'm going to talk about what we do and why we do it, how it kind of works, what's going through our mind. Because I think if you understand our perspective from riding on the fire truck, then you can kind of understand and anticipate where we're coming from. So it starts with some training. So when we pull up to a working incident, in this case, an apartment fire, we're looking through this series of actions, or what's known as the strategic decision-making model. So that first due fire officer, right? So the lieutenant on Tower 73, for instance, they're reading this building and looking at what's called the critical fireground factors. And there's a whole multitude of different factors, but we know that this is a fire. We know that this is a apartment building, and because it's an apartment building, it's wood frame, so the wood burns. We know that there's a lot of people in here, so there's a high life hazard, and that's going to put us into a high risk situation. So that dumps us to our risk management plan. So we're going to risk a lot to save all these people. We're going to risk our lives to go in there and get them. That puts us into an offensive strategy. We're going to be working in the offensive mode. We're going inside. And then that develops our incident action plan. So the lieutenant on Tower 73 quickly, within several seconds, is going to direct operations. We might stretch a hand line, a hose line to go control this fire. We might go for search. And that starts to address our tactical priorities using our standard operating procedure. So how we respond to a fire. These are some of those critical fireground factors like the building, the fire, the occupancy. And we're reading all this in about 10 seconds or less. So as we're going into this, we're knowing the building, we know the occupancy, we know the resources that are responding, the arrangement. And so this is all on that first due company officer to look at. As that officer pulls up, he's going to do a size up. And so we do a standard size up model every time, or should be doing a standard size up model every time. And this is a huge component to you at 7Com. We do our size ups on the tactical channel. And the reason for that is because we're bringing a lot of mutual aid into the incident. Our mutual aid partners are not going to switch to Westchester Fire Main. One, because they probably don't have that radio channel to begin with. And two, as soon as we size this up, we switch to a fire ground. So all we did was we eliminated Fire Main. We realized there's no reason for us to be talking on Fire Main for this kind of incident. It does Deerfield Township no good. It does Liberty no good. Springdale, Sharonville, Mason, all of our mutual aid partners, Fairfield, it does them no good for us to transmit on Fire Main. So when we get dispatched to these, you'll hear us say, hey, follow me to the fire ground, or hey, jump on the fire ground. We want a dedicated dispatcher to be monitoring the fire ground, one, for transmissions, but two, so you can hear exactly what's going on and anticipate our needs. Now, that being said, we understand that there might be other things going on. Just because this fire is raging does not mean that all the other emergencies stopped. We understand that. But we're going to this house fire. And so we don't care about those other emergencies right now. You do. So you are, as 7Com, finding the additional resources to make those other runs. But all of our radio traffic is going to be on the fire because all of our focus is going to be on the fire. So the size up, the way it sounds, this one would be Engine 71's on the scene. I've got a small 2-story single-family dwelling with a working fire, flames showing from the roof and from the Delta side. I'll be in the offensive strategy, stretching an attack line to the Alpha side for fire attack. I'll have command. It would be nice if you guys could repeat that all back to us. We understand that if you don't, because if you repeat it back, what that does is gives us all the other trucks responding 2 opportunities to hear that stuff. If I go on scene and give my size up and nobody else heard it, well, then they don't know what they're rolling up to. But if I say it and you repeat it back verbatim or as close to verbatim as possible, it just gives a layer of redundancy so that everyone can hear it coming in. So then we're going to go do a 360 walk around. So we get off the truck and we're doing a 360. Typically around this point, you're getting additional information called into the dispatch center and you're calling Battalion 70. The problem with that is that's a police model mentality. The incident commander of this is that first truck that went on scene. Battalion 70 may be there, Battalion 70 may not be there. So you calling Battalion 70 on fire main is distracting from listening to the fire ground. If there's pertinent information to be gained, then we need to contact the incident commander on the fire ground. So it might be, hey, command from 7Com, reports of 2 people trapped. That's good information, but it does us no good on fire main. What that does is actually delays that message from getting to the people who can make that a difference. As we're doing our 360, we're evaluating all the conditions. So you might hear a standard 360 size up. It'll be transmitted as a follow-up report. So you hear command to all companies with a follow-up report. If we're looking at this building right here, it would say command to all units with a follow-up report. 360 is complete. I've got a 2-story single-family dwelling with a walkout basement. I got flames showing from the basement. We're redeploying to the Alpha to the Charlie side for fire attack. We'll be in the offensive strategy. Next go to the Alpha side for fire attack. So all this is just communication to set up what we want to do. When you hear Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, those are sides of the building. The back is Charlie, the front is Alpha, and then we work clockwise around the building. You will also hear us report a 720. So this is a second walk around that we do, and that's typically by the battalion or by a division officer. So the 720 is nothing more than another set of eyes that walks around because we know that conditions change. That fire progresses very rapidly. Even if crews are advancing inside, things can change. That fire can jump from floor to floor. That fire can get into the roof space. And so it might not be the same exact fire that incident commander rolled up to. Now it's changed because a few minutes have gone by. So we want to do a 720. So you hear a 720 report come up. And at this point, as far as 7Com's concerned, you don't need to say anything, right? Because the 720 is being reported to command, right? That 720 report, this is now person-to-person conversation. You're just simply there to monitor, right? There's no information that you need to say on the radio. This is just simply keeping an ear out for what's going on with this fire. You'll hear us announce what's called an accountability location. So the accountability location will be at a physical point. Again, nothing that you have to do with this, but what accountability is us tracking resources on the fire ground. So what companies are inside the building, what companies are outside the building, where are people located within this incident. This is how we do this on the fire ground. So you're not having to track any resources in the dispatch center. We know that's not feasible. So our accountability is tracked on scene. And the way that we do that is through something that's called 3D modeling. So the incident commander, let's say it's Battalion 70, they have a list of all the units that are on scene. So he knows who's on, how many trucks he's got and what trucks he has. Then we have tactical level accountability. This is a division supervisor. We'll talk about those in a second. And those division supervisors are tracking each company and the people on it. And then at the task level, that's the company officer inside the building tracking his people. So we have 3 layers of safety built into this so that we don't lose anybody in the building. The way that we track this is through basically a cheat sheet. So we have these boards in the battalion, and as crews are talking, as we're reading the scene, we're writing stuff out and being able to track resources on these sheets. So accountability again is performed at the location of the first truck. So it would say, hey, engine 71 with a follow-up report, 360 is complete. I got a walkout basement and this two-story single-family dwelling. I've got 3 stories in the rear. We're repositioned to the Charlie side for fire attack. We're staying in the offensive strategy. Accountability will be at engine 71. So that way we announce where it's at and where we can go to check into the emergency scene. You might hear this thing called IRIC or the IRIC, IRIC. What IRIC is our first due ambulance shows up, they dress out in their fire gear, and they stand by to make rescues of firefighters. So if we go into the atmosphere, if we go into the hazard area and something happens, a ceiling collapse, a floor collapse, we have 2 firefighters ready to respond to that emergency right now. So when you hear IRIC established, that means that, hey, I've got 2 firefighters standing there, standing by for rescue. It's a safety thing for us, a safety net. And then, as you know, we have a ton of resources coming. So you'll hear this thing, you'll see this thing come across your console that says, I'm at 70. What that is it's an alert tone that goes off to all the chief officers here in Westchester. And if we're available, we're going to respond to this fire because we want to come and assist that incident commander maintain adequate span of control. It allows more eyes on the incident. It allows more safety and accountability. It allows the incident commander of Battalion 70 to divide this incident out and maintain effective span of control. So you'll hear kind of communications back and forth get a little wonky, right? And then you'll hear it should go very quiet. So you'll hear Battalion 70 running the incident, right? Battalion 70, Engine 71, Battalion 70, Tower 73, and then you'll hear a chief officer like myself, Chief 74, Level 1. And then you'll hear Battalion 70, that's clear, Chief 74, assume Alpha. What that means is now I'm in charge of everything that's going on in the front of that building. So whatever resources are working in that area, I am now in charge of. So that's known as a division boss. The goal of the division boss is to reduce radio traffic. So the more we can reduce radio traffic down to 0, the better communications are going to be, but also the airwaves are left open for any emergencies or like a emergency traffic or a mayday or something like that. So this is a picture of Astor Park. So excuse the crude drawing here, but just as an example, this is the back side of Astor Park. So we'll say this is the Charlie side, which would by default make this side over here Bravo, this side over here Delta, and the front of the building where the black smoke's coming from is Alpha. On a first alarm assignment to Astor Park, we get all 11 of these resources, right? So if everyone's in service and everyone's in quarters, this is what we get for a first alarm in Astor Park. That's 11 different trucks. The incident commander in our old system would have to manage all 11 of those apparatus. And we know that that's just not possible. Effective span of control, or how many resources you can absolutely manage effectively, is anywhere from 3 to 7 with an optimal of 5. We have 11 responding. So we're already double what that incident commander can actually handle. Then we get on scene and realize, oh my God, it's really bad. We need a second alarm. That brings an additional 8 resources on top of the 11 that's there. So what's that mean? It means there's 19 different resources responding for that one person to manage. It's not effective. Remember that unlike police, every one of these apparatus has multiple firefighters on it, 3 or 4 guys per truck. So we're dumping about 40 people on the scene for one guy to manage. However, if we bracket it out effectively like an organizational chart, this is actually what it looks like. So you have the incident commander, we'll call him Battalion 70. They initially had Tower 73 on scene, performing an offensive fire attack. Tower 73 ordered Engine 71 and Engine 74 to do some things. The incident commander assigned an Alpha division. So let's say that's me as Chief 74. I become Alpha. All these resources talk to me. And I talk to them, usually not by radio, but by face-to-face communications. I walk up to this guy, hey, what do you need? How's your progress? What's going on? And he gives me an update. Then I go to this guy. Then I go to this guy. Zero radio traffic. Because these guys are working in the hazard zone, because these guys are on air and they're doing searches and doing all the cool things firefighters do, I know they're going to get tired and they're going to need to come out. And if the fire's not out yet, I need to replace them. So I start to get a tactical reserve of units known as on deck. So on deck is nothing more than these additional resources standing outside ready to replace these dudes in my hazard area. On the back side of the building is the Charlie division. So that's the backside where maybe the fire is licking the eaves. We have a resource there. Charlie can request more resources to come back there, but we don't really need them. So Charlie has Engine 72 working back there with a hose line. I've got Alpha with 3 crews working on the inside and 2 crews on deck outside. We have a RIC team, so our firefighter rescue team, which is now established and has 5 people instead of 2. And an EMS branch that has a couple ambulances in it. Effectively, Battalion 70 doesn't talk to all these people. Battalion 70 talks to me, Charlie, EMS if needed, and RIC if needed. And honestly, Incident Commander is going to talk to Alpha and Charlie. 2 people talking to him, these people talking to us, and it makes the incident super, super efficient. You hear us, as we respond, doing this thing called level 1. What level 1 means is that we're slowing down, calling level 1, which basically means on scene, and getting ready to receive an assignment. We have SOPs that say what we do in what order. It works for about 90% of fires, but the fire in the building get a vote. So if the fire is too far advanced before we get there, we'd have to shift and pivot our tactics. So when you hear us call level 1, level 1, level 1, all that means is that we're on scene, give me some work. And so the initial incident commander, which is probably like Tower 73 or one of the truck lieutenants, they're going to assign out what the next critical thing they need done is. It might be take search, it might be stretch another line, whatever. Whatever they decide to do, we go do. So that's how that works. Again, nothing you have to do at this point. It's just giving you general awareness of, hey, what does that level 1 mean? It means that we're slowing down as we're approaching the scene. We're not stopping, but we're slowing down, calling it about 2 to 3 blocks out. We receive our assignment, and then we park and go to work. It keeps the incident moving efficiently. So how we communicate on the radio matters, and this is something that you'll hear us start doing. You'll be like, what does that mean? So there's only a couple reasons for us to get on the radio. What we've always done is just kind of key up the mic and just talk. No longer is that a thing in Blue Card, so there's only really 4 times for us to transmit on the radio. Number 1's called a roof report. So we send a ladder crew to the roof to look at it and see what's going on, make sure it's still there, it's not going to burn through and fall down and kill us, make sure the walls are intact. So you'll hear us call with a roof report. You'll hear us call status changes, and you'll hear this a lot on the radio. So status change is that, hey, I need a new assignment or I'm moving locations within the building. So as the example here, command from Engine 74 with a status change. Primary is complete on the 1st floor. We're moving to the 2nd floor for search. This way I can track that resource. I know that they went from the 1st floor to the 2nd floor. I can also track that the work is done. So I don't need to keep searching the same area. They told me it's done, it's complete. So I can start demobilizing and de-escalating this incident. Then you'll hear priority traffic. This is not a mayday, but it is important. It has a lot of weight to it. So priority traffic is something that needs to be announced. It's something that's really, really important for us. So command from Engine 71, priority traffic. Located a victim on the 2nd floor. We need a ladder to the Charlie side and EMS to the Charlie side. So we're always going to frame our communication to each other as a conditions, actions, needs, and we're going to tell why we're calling them. So command, I'm calling command from Engine 71. That's me. priority traffic. I'm going to call you to talk about priority traffic, something that I want you to pay attention to. What this also does is lets everybody else on the fire ground pay attention as well. So if you hear the words priority traffic, we can clue into that. And if you're busy at the console in 7Com, you can clue into priority traffic as well. So that you know, oh, hey, something's going on, or I can anticipate what that next call from command is going to be. Then, of course, Mayday traffic is the fourth reason why we would have a Mayday, right? So Mayday traffic is there, and the reason we do this model is so that the airwaves stay clear for a Mayday. Not everything is priority traffic. So if I go in like, hey, I opened up and I found fire. Well, yeah, that's not priority traffic. You're supposed to find a fire. You went to one. So just because you're inside and there's a fire, that's not priority traffic, right? That's just what we call good news reporting, and we try to stay away from that. So our radio order model, things you'll hear on the radio, we call command and state the reason for the message. So status change, priority traffic, roof report. Command acknowledges, then we send the message. So we got a knockdown on the fire on the second floor. We're overhauling and need an additional company to assist. Command acknowledges and then repeats it back. So you'll hear this on the radio numerous times, and just again want to give you awareness, like, why are they saying and talking so weird? It's because of the radio order model to reduce radio traffic. So if we were inside and found a condition like this, the radio order model will go something like this. Command from Tower 73 with emergency traffic. Go ahead, Tower 73. Tower 73, we've opened up the ceiling above us. We got heavy fire conditions. I need an additional line inside and one more company with hooks to keep opening up. Command's clear, Tower 73. You've opened up. You've got fire above you, sending you an additional company with an additional line and an additional company with hooks. That's it. Simple, effective, but that way we make sure we completed the entire feedback loop. You'll hear us establish a RIC team, and then you're going to hear this groups and divisions thing. So divisions, when you're hearing a division, it's basically a single person going to a area and establishing Alpha. Alpha would be, again, the front of the building. Charlie would be the back of the building. Bravo, Delta would be the left and right of the building, respectively. It's where the work is being done. So if I have a garage fire and the garage faces the Bravo side, I would establish the Bravo division. And then I have companies reporting to Bravo to fix that. So you're going to hear that stuff on the radio. Again, you're going to hear level 1 staging. Hey, I'm level 1, level 1, level 1, level 1. Level 1 means on scene as far as you guys are concerned, but what it is in actuality is we're slowing down to receive that next assignment. You'll hear on deck. And so on deck is nothing more than filling out my tactical reserve. So I got crews inside working. I know I need backup for them. So you're going to hear, hey, go on deck Alpha. That means that this crew is moving to the Alpha side to report on deck, stand by to do work. So why we do it and why it's so important for you guys to follow us to the fire ground, to keep an ear out for priority traffic, to understand why we're doing this is number one, because we're switching it. All of our neighbors are doing this, but also it's for firefighter safety. So if you can follow us to the fire ground, you're going to be more in tune with what we're actually doing. You'll be able to pick up what we're saying, and you'll be able to understand and anticipate those needs coming from the incident commander and best support our operations. We have a lot of staffing for our incidents, and so how we respond is a little bit differently than like other agencies do because we have really, really good staffing. We also have some really aggressive standard operating guidelines to get into buildings fast, search for people fast, and remove them from the hazard zone because we're able to cover all of our positions as necessary. So we do this quite well. We're continuing to train on it. We're continuing to grow with it. It's been a long journey. It's going to continue to be a long journey. But again, just wanted to give you guys an understanding of why those size ups are happening on the fire ground and not on main, why we'd like you to be on the fire ground to receive that and to talk back to that initial incident commander. Understand that when you call Battalion 70 while he's en route, that does nothing really. You need to call that initial incident commander because they have eyes on the scene. They are there. They're smelling it, seeing it, tasting it. They know what they need. So if you're calling Battalion 70 thinking that they are going to be able to help you, they're probably not. Battalion 70 is a shift supervisor, but they're not the incident commander until they arrive on scene and take command. Whoever declares command is the person that you want to be exchanging radio traffic with. As always, if you guys have any questions, you can by all means get with me. I'll be happy to stop down and talk to you guys more to clarify anything that seemed confusing. But thanks for doing such a great job. Thanks for keeping us safe, for being our voice and ear on the other end of the line. And you guys have a great day. See ya.